Welcome back, everyone, and welcome back, my friend and colleague, Gina Catherine. Hi.
Hey, Janice, I'm so happy to be here and super excited.
Yeah, this is a great topic. Today, Gina and I are going to be exploring the female orgasm. Woohoo! Yay! This topic was on my original list of topics to cover when I decided to start Sex and the Solo Girl, which would have been a year about when I started getting into the process of starting the podcast. I think, it's been 6 or 7 months since I actually did it, but that's neither here nor there. And it was there on the list and on the list. And I just thought, okay, this is a topic that I need to, finally embrace. And maybe it was time to do so because Gina and I have become friends, and she is, would you say, an expert on the female orgasm, an enthusiast? What do you think?
I think enthusiast, because expert, in my mind, first of all, thank you. I love this. And I love having somebody to talk about things like pleasure and orgasm. And I also love that your intro to this was a topic that you really wanted to do right, that you really wanted to dive into, that it was on your list. A little bit why a lot of women don't let themselves experience orgasm, right? Because they think it has to be this one time shot where I got to get it right, or I want it to be like this. And they have this idea of what it should look, feel, taste, smell like. And
Mhm.
um,
And maybe also when I will like when in the experience you climax.
yeah,
And we're
right.
definitely going to talk about, yeah, not hurrying it and partnered, having an orgasm whilst having sex with partner, having it while you're on your own. And yeah, there's so many things to be said. I mean, I do it all different ways. I did, however, want to have someone to discuss it with. And I will say that never I felt fell into place until I started working with you. And actually, Gina, before we start, can you maybe give yourself a little plug for your work? I attended one of your workshops a few weeks ago where you talked about the female anatomy. And I'd love you to maybe tell my listeners where they can find that or similar things that you are doing. Because, I mean, also, after I went to that workshop, it did just occur to me when I was out walking in the park that, oh, yeah, let's do the female orgasm with Gina.
Well, I love being on people's minds when they're walking in the park.
Thinking of orgasms.
So thank you so much. And maybe the easiest thing to do is just to say that um, I'm a certified sex, love, and relationship coach. I have a couple of specialties: sexual mastery for men, female sexuality, conscious dating, and relationships like relationship renew and
Yeah.
sexual intimacy and compatibility. I call myself an intimacy coach because I'm in it for all of it. Most of my clients don't want to just know where to rub. They want to know, how can I feel like the goddess herself has captivated my body and I'm moving as that. Really, anyone is welcome who wants to do a deep dive into knowing themselves, what drives them, how to feel more pleasure. So, really, like a pleasure based coaching methodology. And I work around Tantra, neuroscience, and how to just think, like, why don't I have that? And then what can I do to get it?
Go and find Gina, at least see what she's doing. Maybe see if it speaks to you and if her work turns you on. Let's get into the juiciness of
Let's
this
do it.
episode. We've got a lovely outline, things we are going to cover. I'm going to be speaking from a lot of experience as a multi orgasmic woman, which I'm kind of more playing with very, very recently, which is kind of blowing my mind and my partner's mind as well. And Jana brings in a little bit background with the anatomy and how it works and different ways of looking at it. And starting with orgasm and being orgasmic, I think that's a really wonderful place to start. Why did you want to begin here, or why is this an important differentiation for you?
Yeah, I think that the distinction between orgasm and being orgasmic. So, and maybe I'll reverse the question is for you being, as you said, a multi-orgasmic woman. What does that feel like to you outside the bedroom?
Well, I may be a little bit more advanced than some people listening, but I will definitely say that, you call your work pleasure based. I have said for years that I live a desire based life. And I learned how to do that many years ago. I think one reason I am able, or that I am multi-orgasmic, is that I listen to my desire in most things that I do. I want to feel physically comfortable is one thing I desire. So I kind of set up my space to facilitate that. I like to take sex slow. I like it to be for both of us. And I follow that. I do follow the desire. And also, I'm in a very expansive situation with my current partner. And I mean, I guess one of my ideologies around sex, at least currently, is it's an endless discovery. You never stop if you allow yourself to discover new things about your body, about your partner, about what the experience holds in store. And yeah, there's so much. And so I'm very, very open to that and open to trying new things or just listening to my body. And yeah, that's one way that I learned how to do it, is because, we don't really have formulaic sex, which I hope that we can encourage others to see that differentiation as well. And so that's partially what being orgasmic means to me.
Yeah, I love
I
that.
know that
And
was
that,
a lot.
no, well, it should be a lot, right? It shouldn't be a short answer. And
Okay.
and so I think that like living an orgasmic life, you use the word expansive, right? Expansive or
Mhm.
expansion. And I think that that bleeds into every single part of our existence, like how we make money, how we shop for food, how we eat. Do we savor all the moments of our life? And so teaching ourselves how to orgasm becomes a little bit of a training for living orgasmically, right? Because the steps are kind of boiled down into okay, here's what I need, and the things that you need for orgasm are the things that you need for an orgasmic life. True, full-bodied, like divine, sacred sexuality. Um, this sexual awakening bleeds into every other part of our life. And so then you walk
Yes.
around and you feel like, okay, like I'm living my best life, which to me means orgasmic. It means there's a mind shift. There is a movement and an expansion in everything that I do. And that feeds better orgasms, but orgasms feed that life. So it's this whole beautiful mix of energy that is, we're not really just talking about how can I make that little pelvic floor fluttering feel even more. We're not really talking about that. We're talking about how can I tap into an energy that blossoms in me that when I walk around, people look at me and think, what the hell?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I have that
yeah.
too because I'm, like I said, following my desire. I'm dressed in things that I'm comfortable with. I am smiling. I am very confident on my own. And so I'm out and about feeling lots of pleasure and joy with pretty much anything I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. When you're tapped in to the sensations in your body, you're also tapped into your intuition. And so your connections feel stronger and more true
Mhm.
because you're like, wait, something's off here. And it doesn't mean that you a lot of times when we walk around the world without that knowing that you're talking about, without that connection to our pleasure and our body, when something feels off, we think goodbye, right? We have a nervous system response to like, this is not good. That's not your intuition. Your intuition is curious. Your intuition is explorative and adventurous and grounded. Your intuition is not like, this sucks, I'm out of here. That's a trigger response.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, and so really being tapped into your body and being tapped into your pleasure is being tapped into your intuition. So I'm glad you brought that up.
What I really want to dive into is definitely something that I would not have sat here and talked about without you. And that is the three components of orgasms. I
Ah,
will let you take the floor because you are more studied than I am, and I want to learn from you as well as my audience does.
yeah, so the three components of orgasm are pleasure, expansion, and then some sort of mind shift or surrender. And so so pleasure is almost always through sensation or touch or um, the way that we know it now, right? The way that we know it now, pleasure is very often like touching the genitals. So here's where I find that most women, we're talking here in this podcast episode about female orgasm, right?
Mhm.
Most women are limiting themselves in what they can experience in orgasm. And it's usually in one, two, or all three of these sort of components, right? So they're not really fully exploring the first component, which is pleasure. They're not really diving into, you and I have talked about self-pleasure, right? They're not really diving into what they know and how that changes based on the day, the point in their cycle or their seasons that they're in, their mood, their stress level. They just come at pleasure as, oh, uh, lips, 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 breast, 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 stomach. Like I know I like the inner thighs touch, do that, do this, and then we're ready for penetration, right? They
Mhm.
come at pleasure in a very narrow view, as opposed to, as you said earlier, taking a lot of time in pleasure, feeling pleasure in different ways, using all of your senses, exploring, not being attached to what you had done before.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great point. Mhm.
Yeah, and then the expansion part usually comes with movement, right? So we feel pleasure, um, and then we a lot of people can feel pleasure, right? You feel this like sensations of this feels good to me, this feels pleasurable to me. And then they're stuck. They don't know what to do. They can't either in partnered sex or alone. They don't really know how to turn that into something else. So you yourself, being multi-orgasmic, you're open and expansive about this. You have that skill of taking that pleasure and moving it into something that bubbles up or flows or pops or we can talk about these
Yeah.
different descriptive words
Mhm.
later. And then there's a surrender or a mindset and a shift. So what that means is you feel pleasure, you let it expand or move, and then you move into this like point of surrender. So if you
Mhm.
struggle with surrendering, if you struggle with opening your heart, you will struggle with orgasm. Orgasm will be a question to you like did that sensation qualify as an
Mhm.
orgasm? Did this do anything for me? Really?
Mhm.
Like this fluttering, what was that an orgasm? And there are ways that you can go from step one to step two and from step two to step three. But just being allowing pleasure, allowing the movement and the expansion of some sort, and then allowing the surrender or the mind shift.
And the surrender is really when you are so in the moment that you're, yeah, solely focused on your pleasure or your partner. I mean, I think there's nothing that puts you in the moment or in the present more than, like, for me at least, an orgasm. And also I think that when it comes to surrender and expansion, all of this, not having the orgasm be the goal that you are chasing, that also will help you to relax so much more. I know a lot of us really want that, but it's a way about it's a way that we go about getting to, like, these peaks of joy and pleasure that help to facilitate it. I mean, I think it's fun to have different types of orgasms, but in a way sometimes it does a little bum me out when, you hear women saying, I want to either learn how to squirt, or I want to have this type of orgasm, how do I get this? Because it is very much chasing the outcome. And I think if you're really wondering, how do I get this type of orgasm, it's going to be really hard to be in the moment. I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that's true. What you said is 100% something that I prescribe as a sex coach and a sexuality and intimacy coach is take orgasm off the table.
Yeah.
If you want to have an orgasm, take it off the table. Because what happens when we're focused on orgasm, as you said, it's this, you introduce performative behavior, you introduce shame. What is wrong with me? Why can't I get there? Why doesn't this work? You introduce stress. So stress and shame are the two biggest things that shut us down in sex and intimacy. And when you're layering them on and you're thinking, oh, why am I taking so long? Why am I
Nothing is going to get you in your head more than starting to think, why am I taking so long? Or
yeah.
is he happy? I know for me, I used to do that during when I was receiving oral sex, as I would be like, oh, like, I mean, loving this, but like, when am I going to start to come? And then the whole thing just goes, just
Yes,
fails
100%.
basically.
We start to bear down our
Yeah.
expectations. And you guys can't see me, but what I'm doing is I'm making this contracted movement on the camera with Janice. And when we bear down, we put up we put up tension against what we're trying to go for, right? It's like you can't blossom, nothing can grow if you're putting a barrier around it. It will stay in there and maybe it will be okay. But if we're talking about mind blowing, life altering, God inviting orgasm, we're not talking about staying within this little box. And
Hmm.
so practicing pleasure and let me go back to like why women don't orgasm typically, right? I think
Okay.
it's sex is too short.
Sure.
Um, Men themselves, when we're talking about heteronormative sex, so penis and vagina, men tend to ejaculate too soon. Men don't have sexual education. There's no energetic connection between the partners. We have time pressure.
Yeah.
We have ego, which is what we've been talking about a lot here. What do I look like? How are they feeling? What do I do? How do I appear? How do I look? Right? We're performance conscious is the ego. These are a lot of reasons why women don't orgasm outside of like not knowing their own body, not knowing what is possible. We're putting ourselves against men do it like this, and we have been trying to practice doing things like men do, right? So the penis, the whole apparatus of men and all of their turn on is different than ours. It just is. It is very similar. We have similar makeup and build, but like we're not here to talk about like arousal and things, but men can decide like, okay, like they can decide to climax or not to climax.
This is true. But as far as men and women doing it the same way and this expectation, this is why I believe that some porn can be very toxic because it so often shows if it's heteronormative sex, the man and the woman like coming at the same time. And I have learned, we have learned how to do that. And it is like, I've never had this before with another partner, but it's not common. And that's not how it works, that the man is having this explosive orgasm. And at the exact same time, the woman is as well. Let's just talk about it. That is why women fake it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's why women fake it. And I can eliminate all of this by saying when the person with the penis orgasms, sex does not have to be over.
Mm-hmm.
We have trained ourselves, movies, TV, porn, literature, have trained ourselves that we had better, and a man who is good lets her come first, right? Lets her come first instead of this whole blissful dance of what feels good to you? How can I share my juice, my energy, my sounds, my breath? How can we dance together and feel pleasure together? That's for anybody. That's for any gender, any sexual identity, anybody coming together in partnered sex. The understanding that when one person, it's permission to be multi-orgasmic. When one person climaxes, it doesn't mean it's over. When one person orgasms, it doesn't mean it's over either, right? Like even men who want to please and want to make sure that their woman feels pleasure and climaxes, right? There's still a pressure there.
Yeah.
There is still an expectation that I'm waiting so that you can have yours so that then I can have mine, as opposed to this openness, this no fences, no barrier feeling of like, let's just see how much pleasure we can feel
Look in each other's
together.
eyes and connect. This is also why I cringe when I hear, which is becoming more common in a way some people might think that this is a good trend, but when I see things that say make her come, and I'm cringing, like, I mean, that's so problematic. So, I mean, it's a nice thought and everything, but I mean, the pressure and the lack of intimacy and the closing off of like so many other possibilities that you might have with this woman in order to make her come. Yeah, like I said, it's nice that we're seeing more content and media centered around men being more sexually generous.
Mhm.
But it's a start. But this is a bit limiting that's a mindset.
It's a bit limiting, and it's just repackaged. It's
Thank
just
you.
repackaged male-centered sex.
That's good. Such a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
love
because
it.
this is it's also telling a man, a well-intentioned man who wants to make his female partner come, this is how you do it. When actually, there is no formula. There is no formula. You know that Friends episode where Monica
Yep.
teaches Chandler 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3, 7, 7, 7.
Yes.
That's great, and that was a cute little scene, right? But hear this, everybody. Women's body are shot through underwater with lightning. Everything that's connected in every woman is different. Not just how close is your clitoral head to the vaginal opening. We all sort of like have this vague understanding that maybe penetrative sex is easier to climax from. If that is true,
I mean, I certainly have heard that a lot.
yeah, and that's okay too. But
Mhm.
the thing that removes all of that is just understanding that the female body is unique. The neural pathways, the connectors, biologically are different for every single woman. And so, how exciting. And also, how much does that negate what you were just saying, how to make a woman come? Unless the thing that they are teaching in that class is be a fully present lover, be tapped into your own pleasure, understand the energy body. If that's what they're teaching and how to make a woman come, how to show up
Hmm.
fully alive and present to your partner and share that type of energetic, if that's what they're teaching, then yay.
Get in. Gina, have you ever been with a man who kind of starts things off with saying, I'm going to make you come, like come for me? Or have you ever had that experience? Because I've experimented with lots of things, a little BDSM, had, lots of partners. And I know that I have been told that he's somehow going to, yeah, make me, and then really focused on that. And that it probably least likely to have an orgasm if a man approaches it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I find that that way of speaking can be hot. Funnily enough, I think you might be surprised that I say that, right? As a person who teaches women to take back their own power and pleasure, and that understanding that every feeling, every sensation that you have belongs to you. Um,
Yeah, that's
and
beautiful.
yeah, and it depends on like, have I talked about this ahead of time? Are we in play mode?
Hmm.
Are we in, like you said, like, are we in like a dominant, submissive role playing thing? But if somebody comes in and says to me or tells me when to come,
Yeah. Hmm.
puts pressure on that. I would speak to it after.
I really want to tell everyone, just oral sex for the sake of just enjoying the process, not
Totally.
making
Totally.
anyone
It's
do
the
anything.
difference between wolfing down, sushi, letting it roll over your tongue and experimenting with like
Hmm.
what combinations of wasabi and how much dipping do you want? And that's really actually a pretty good
Yes.
example.
And I also think there's opportunities for a lot more pleasure on the vulva owner's part when you can tell that your partner is not really focused on making you do anything.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
I want to
Totally.
talk about sexual mastery, or I'm sorry, orgasmic mastery. But first, what I thought we might, or I might do really quickly, is just looking at the word orgasm and the history of it. And I
Yeah.
just had this really sweet passage that I wanted to read. In my tantric study, I've been going over this gorgeous book, The Art of Sexual Ecstasy. And it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful guide to beginning tantra. Margot Anand is the author. The word orgasm carries with it a great promise of fulfillment. It originates from two Greek words, orgasmos, meaning to grow ripe, swell, and be lustful, and urge, meaning impulse. It also has roots in the Sanskrit word urge, meaning nourishment, power, and strength. Listen to this. If we had adhered to these definitions, we would no doubt have avoided much of the trouble that has accompanied the limited interpretations given to the orgasmic experience down through the ages. And that's, exactly what we're talking about. Is there's so much more to it than this burst of something at the end. This we're talking about an entire way of viewing intimacy with yourself and others.
Yes. I was particularly struck by nourishment, power, and strength.
Mm.
Because here's a piece of advice I would give to every woman is pay attention if you have multiple lovers, if you have multiple ways of orgasm, of getting to orgasm, pay attention to how you feel after. Do I feel depleted? Do I feel connected? Don't let the internet tell you that orgasm releases oxytocin and therefore you feel bonded. Like, is that true for you? Do you feel after an orgasm more connected? Do you feel a sense of rejection? Do you feel a sense of emptiness? Do you feel nourished? understanding how you feel after an orgasm is so key to tweaking what you could do before to have this nourishment, power, and strength. And so I love that definition from that book. I've actually never read that book, but one of the things that you said too is that let's redefine orgasm. And Tantra redefines orgasm. So the way we sort of think about orgasm, the way we've been taught of orgasm is we have this like build up, this tension, and then we have this explosion, this release, and then we collapse, right? It's this very what we call peak orgasm. And so we have peaks and valleys, and it's what you had asked me about with explosive and
Yes, thank you.
implosive.
Hmm.
So an explosive would be a peak orgasm. Please hear me now. I am not saying this is wrong. I am not in any way saying don't do this.
Hmm.
I get it. Like, get that. Like, there is something so volcanic and eruptive and beautiful about peak orgasms. They are incredible and
Yeah, I'm all
dynamic.
for it.
Yeah, and dynamic and like how we touch ecstasy. It's so beautiful, right? And you might be missing out if you don't pay attention to what valley orgasms feel like. So if you're focused only on the peak, you're omitting everything in the valley, which is where the nourishment comes from, which is where the sense of power and strength comes from. If you're attached only to the peaks, you tend to attach to the person who you're with.
Mhm. Okay.
Whereas if you can fully allow yourself to enjoy the valley orgasms, so this is like maybe this watery, flowy, blooming, like you would think of as a valley bed, right? Like all of the light green, soft grass. It's how we feel safe. It's how we can blossom into a deeper intimacy.
That's how a lot
And
of my G spot orgasms are. Like they tend to, wave over my entire body and not necessarily make me want to stop right after, though. I sometimes got to take a little break. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel it too. And it's not like a big burst, but yes, just like a multiple waves of pleasure kind of
yeah.
rolling and rolling and rolling.
And I'm not, we're talking here in this episode about female orgasm, but that is true for men as well. So I've been with a lover who was invited by me and just my energy being to stay in that, to keep touching, to keep stroking. And they have said, like, Gina, what is happening to my body? Right? So this non-ejaculatory orgasm can come in that valley. And it can be a mystery, but it can also be this a portal, this opening to a deeper connection. And also that it's a way to swim together that feels much more intimate and less performative. It's where I find that I have healed a lot of my grasping. Even when I was pretty good at peak orgasms,
Mhm.
I still felt like, in meditative circles, we call it grasping, right? Like it's this sensation of not wanting to lose something, of not wanting to be abandoned. I don't want to lose myself. I don't want to lose them. I don't want to lose this feeling. I don't want to lose, right? Like this feeling of this has a limit and I better hold the fuck on tight, right?
Mhm.
Whereas when I would allow myself to enjoy the valley orgasms, this experiences of this like oceanic pleasures, I healed from that without really needing to think about it too much. It's a stillness that just felt really good and healing to me.
For sure. And it's partially how I discovered that I was multi G spot orgasmic, which has kind of been blowing my mind because we would stay connected as I was having one in certain ways so that I was not yeah, I was just like riding the wave. And I mean, and then being able to, as I'm going, feel maybe the potential of something else coming on, and then being so relaxed and open to it and feeling like I'm still in the flow of it, that I would have another one like much faster than you would think. And but again, but it felt like kind of a continuation of the first one
Mhm.
almost. It's everyone listening, there's so many opportunities for pleasure and discovery out there if you can learn to, yeah, surrender to the moment and let go of these
Yeah.
expectations.
And
Mm.
Janice, is it okay if I offer your listeners two things to help them do that?
Please, yes. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Yeah, this seems easy for us to say, surrender and open up and let yourself be
Exactly.
expansive. But yes, what are we talking about,
Exactly.
Gina?
Yeah. So I'll just preface this by saying, don't judge yourself for being a beginner. Don't judge yourself for being 40 and this is all new to you.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever you are, whoever you are, is exactly right. So whether you're in this sort of reclaiming your sexuality, whether you're in just expanding and figuring out what's new, or
Mhm.
whether you're like in the mastery phase where it's almost like you can move things with your mind when you're in the
Yeah, I was
mastery.
hoping you were going to talk about orgasmic mastery. Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it, girl.
And so I'm going to talk about a few ways that you can get there. So whatever phase that you're in, even if you're in orgasmic mastery phase, one of the things that you can do is to just practice when that feeling of, here it comes, the buildup comes, right? And you're like, I'm going to come, right? Like you have this experience, right? What do we often do? We hold our breath and we bear down. Try to do the opposite. Try to do the opposite. Practice all the time doing the opposite. Um, if you can, exhale into the sensation, and then you're going to inhale to expand it,
Mhm.
right? So this is a little bit of a reverse breathing that might take some practice,
I'm doing
but
it
like,
right now, people.
yeah, right before you climax, um, exhale. Like let's say like you're having a clitoral sensation where you feel like here it comes, like so excited, like it's so good, right? If you want to learn to expand that, if you want to learn to move that energy from your clitoral area, from your genital area, moving energy is a skill that every single person has. It is just not true that you say I can't have. It's just you haven't had.
Thank you.
And
Hmm.
so like just exhale into almost like a relaxing, like into the sensation, and then inhale, picture bringing it to the top of your head and to your hands and feet, like this points of a star. So you're going to inhale and you're going to bring that sensation, you're going to pull it, draw it, invite it
Hmm.
to different parts of your body. So you're going to pull that pleasure.
Reminding yourself to breathe in the beginning. If maybe this feels a little advanced, trust me, it's not. But so often when we feel like we're going to come, we completely stop breathing, and people don't realize that they're doing that. This is kind of a cute story, but back when I was like in high school, I was just coming across a Cosmo article, and you know how they all used to be, please your man and have and this and that. But I still remember I saw this exact wording that often we stop breathing when we are going to have an orgasm, and to remind yourself to breathe. And I just always remembered that. So
Yeah.
it
Oh,
hasn't been hard for me, but yeah, just remind yourself that, and hopefully, if you are having a partner or partners that you are regularly having sex with, practice perhaps breathing, looking into each other's eyes, breathing together. That can also help you kind of slow down and focus on your breath.
yeah. If you want to back this all the way up, all the way to beginner phase, practice with your food.
Oh,
Practice
cool.
with
Okay.
your food.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you put the chocolate, you're not going to put the chocolate in your mouth. Start to taste how good it is and then chomp on it and swallow it. Don't do that. Let it melt. Try to bring that, let's say you love chocolate, right? Try to bring that melted sensation to all parts of your mouth, to your tongue, and then try to bring the scent up a little higher. Try to see, like, can you bring it into your head space? Can you like feel the chocolate entering the cells in your body, your stomach, your pussy, your buttocks, your right? Like, can you feel that chocolatey sensation, the pleasure of chocolate melting and expanding beyond just that taste bud?
Go out there and get some chocolate. Practice tonight. And I mean, we're talking about partnered and solo orgasms, but either if you're masturbating or if you're having sex with someone else, it still comes down to safety with the person, and that is going to be, I think, one of the main things that lets you experiment with all of this. Being able to look at your partner and just look them in the eyes and say, let's slow down. That in and of itself is amazing and something that a lot of people would not be comfortable with. I really want to talk about some anatomy stuff, but first, something you put in the notes that I have to talk, or I have to ask you about, is you mentioned reclamation, expansion, and mastery when it comes to phases of orgasm. And I want to hear you talk about mastery, if that's okay. And then we'll move on a little bit to some geography. Yeah, before we wrap up.
Orgasmic mastery for me is where the sacred sexuality part comes in.
Okay.
It's it's knowing what is pleasurable to you, knowing how to move that pleasure and experience it, and then knowing how to surrender and doing it at a state where you can feel so safe and grounded that you can be also part of the universe, right? Like, so I'll just give you this example in my life when I moved from sexual expansion to orgasmic mastery, it's when I started to believe in something other than just me. I was already at the phase where I was experimenting. I was already knowledgeable about my anatomy, about what pleased me. I already had given myself permission to explore. Um, I had already called in a partner that was adventurous and beautiful, and we were both very attached to our intellect. We were both very, he was a lawyer, and we both were atheist. We said that we were atheist. Um, and then there was a moment when we allowed so much time, like an endless amount of time, endless amount of exploration. There were a full range of emotion. So orgasmic mastery is when you can allow tears and they don't stop you. You can allow laughter and they don't stop you. You can go and move with the flow of something as if you're the ocean and you're not the wave, right? You're not the wave, you're not the boat, you're just the ocean and you can feel everything. And so this partner and I had been together for a while, and there was a point where I did not know if I had the cock or if I had the pussy. I did not know. I was
I totally know what you mean. I feel emotional.
where my body ended and his began, where my heart ended, and he was open. His heart was open to me. His cock was open to me. My pussy, and so then it just was in this mix of allowing. So maximum amount of pleasure, maximum amount of expansion, and maximum amount of surrender. And I had been doing a lot of practices outside the bedroom in self-trust, in my own knowing, so that even if something went wrong in that episode and something hurt me, or I had some sort of random response I had no idea was coming, I knew I would be okay, so that I would allow it, right? And so having this sense of orgasmic mastery for me just meant that I would allow my mind to be gone. The thing that I had held so closely to, the thing that had gotten me everywhere in my life was my intellect. And so releasing that,
Sounds like freedom to me.
it sounds like freedom, right? And so orgasmic mastery feels like freedom. And when you're free, you don't put any limits on yourself.
And this is accessible to any vulva owner listening. And it was a journey for Gina and I both. Like, trust me, we could have an episode just on our sexual journeys.
Hmm.
I felt emotional when you were saying about the ocean because I am lucky enough to have a partner who's also multi-orgasmic. Like, I never knew this was possible for a man to this extent. And I'm like, seriously, you'd be amazed. And we have now at this point spent many days at a time in bed. But the
Yeah.
first time that we did it, we were talking after, and I'm like, I don't know if I've ever experienced something like that, like an entire day of making love. And he said, yeah, it felt like we were lost at sea.
Oh,
And I was, yeah, I
yeah.
kind of still feel that way with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you. And thank you to him because this is just blowing my mind constantly.
And one of the things that I want to mention about what you're talking about now is um, this idea of how we actually feel, right? So feeling lost at sea, like if that comes to any listener as, well, I don't want that,
Oh, okay.
that ask yourself why. Be curious about why. If you say to yourself, oh, I don't want to be in bed for 7 hours or for days at a time, that's okay. That's okay too, right?
Sure.
If you say that's not possible for me and my partner, get curious about why. One of the things that I think, just like how you were talking about, you heard something say like how to make your woman come or something. I think a lot of these strategies are well intentioned and they can be
Mm,
used well. Edging is one of these,
okay.
where I think the idea of edging, so for anybody who's listening who doesn't understand what edging is, so when Janice talked about her partner being able to be multi-orgasmic, multi-climactic, one way to get there is through this technique called edging, right?
Yeah.
And women and men both can edge. So I could do a whole episode about edging, but I want to talk
Great
about it
idea.
in an orgasmic sense and to maybe tie this all up in a little bows that a lot of people use edging to not come so quickly or to maximize their vibrational experience, right? So that it's more explosive, so that the peak gets bigger. They edge. And so what they do is, so edging just means getting yourself to the point of climax and then backing down, right?
Mhm.
And so you're backing down off the pleasure just slightly, and you'll learn whether you need to dial it down to an 8 or a 7, or most people, men and women alike, go all the way up to the edge of climax and then they shut off the tap. And it's this cycle of get there and get back to zero. So hot, cold, hot, cold. What I, and then it shuts off. If there's no nourishment, there's no power and there's no strength in there. You're missing out.
Mhm.
And so edging can be you get all the way up to that point and then you move it somewhere. You're still capturing. You don't let it leak out. You don't open the tap and let it out so that you don't do something. It's that you recycle that energy that you've gotten from all of that pleasure and you move it into another part of your body that can nourish it, that can strengthen it, that
And
can.
again, breathing is essential for
Yeah,
edging.
yeah. But sometimes for me, like if let's say I'm in self-pleasure and I'm like just to the point where I know I could come right then, right? I will just snake my spine. So I'll do my breathing exercises too, but I'll just snake my spine and see like where does that climactic buildup go? Where does that like
Mhm.
does it go to my head? Like, and I try not to control it, And so this is part of orgasmic mastery too, is not controlling where you think the pleasure should go. It's knowing that I am so curious about what's going to happen here,
Mhm.
right? And so using edging, yes, to extend the duration of time that you can
Mhm.
be in sexual contact with a partner, but also as nourishment, as fuel.
Mm. And I'm smiling
Really,
because once you kind of learn, quote unquote, how to do this,
yeah.
that your orgasms, this is where a lot of people start having really full body orgasms. I know my partner, my partner's so cute. He says sometimes that he can smell colors when
Yes.
when he starts when he
Yes.
allows that.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Your partner has it exactly right because it's this otherworldly,
Yeah.
ineffable
Mm.
sense of magic or mystic or and so be in the club that doesn't have words for what you're experiencing. Be in the club of orgasmic pleasure that doesn't maybe need the words, right? Like you want to
Yeah,
express,
exactly. And like that really doesn't make sense, but it's a way to to
yeah,
describe like kind of leaving your body and going into
yeah,
another realm.
another dimension.
And
Exactly.
oh my God, I'm so happy right now. Let's talk a little bit about anatomy. I think that we would be remiss if we didn't. And you wanted to talk about the geography of orgasm. That is important. Everything that we've talked about today is absolutely beautiful and essential. But you want to talk about where in the body there might be differences of sensations. I know
Mhm.
for a fact that a lot of the penis owners and vulva owners out there are going to not really know where to begin. So, is that maybe why you wanted to talk about this?
Yeah, I think I put that as a bullet point, as a topic of interest, the geography of orgasm, just because I wanted to reiterate that everybody is normal, that everybody's different,
Okay.
that and this invitation to explore. Like for me, I ignored my breast. I thought that they were the thing to attract or the thing to have appeal. I didn't understand like what a portal to intimacy they were. They're right here on the heart.
Oh,
The gateway to intimacy for most women is through the heart. And so having my partner do breast massage, having them put their energy on my breast, I have had breast orgasms.
I've heard of,
Um,
I haven't experienced this, but that is awesome.
yeah, it's just this. There's also this, what in Tantra you say this magnetic rod. So but there's also
Hmm.
an nerve endings that connect your breast to your vagina. And so you'll notice, like if somebody is, but it's not foreplay, it's all play, right? And so just the geography of orgasm, including the breast, the nipples, what does that feel like? What does it feel like if a lover just hovers over? Are you a person who likes to feel like a lot of kneading with a K, kneading, with, or who likes to just have them cupped, who likes waterfall fingertip pleasure over, who likes nipples pinched, like really invitation to explore your breast as a portal, not only to awakening your vagina and getting her wet and not only as a path to something else but as a destination totally right and
Hmm.
so I wanted to talk about that just because I think it's super overlooked. I think the most reliable place that women orgasm is the clitoris. You can also practice having anal orgasms by stimulating, we would call this a blended orgasm, by stimulating the clitoris while having anal play, anal sex,
Hmm.
and and also that all of the nerves in the in the anus are different for every woman. So not enjoying anal sex does not mean that, as much as your sister who, or as much as we're talking about here, does not mean that there's anything wrong with you.
Thank you. One of my closest friends who's been on both editions of the Anal Sex Chronicles is hella into it. In fact, she's actually practicing anal fisting. That's how into it she is. And
Mhm.
I've started to play partially because of doing this series. And I'm not sure I will ever get to the point of even being able to do it because it's painful. It's not my thing. And so this just goes back. Like I've listened to Jess, my friend in Auckland, talk about this so much over the past couple of years. And I did start to think, I should open up
Uh-huh.
to this, or she loves it so much, I'm not receptive to it, so maybe I should play with this. And not necessarily at all, none of this.
Yeah, exactly. It is just, yeah, full out permission to think like, okay, how does my G spot orgasm feel? How does it
That's my
feel?
thing, man.
Yeah, like cervical, like from my class, you'll remember that like a cervical orgasm is connected to different neuropathic networks
Mhm.
than the clitoris is. And so just playful exploration, and you'll know the difference between this doesn't feel pleasurable to me and I shouldn't be doing this so it doesn't feel pleasurable, right? You'll know the difference between whether there's an element of shame or tension around any of these geographic, like these anatomy, the anatomy of arousal,
Yeah,
right?
and that is true. I mean, some women have a really hard time having penetrative sex with the vulva, which was Jessie's experience for a long time. She had some sort of condition that made that really painful. And so that's how she got into this. Everyone is different. I really want to talk about why orgasm is important, why it matters. But something that fascinates me that I have actually experienced with my current partner is energetic orgasm. Can you please explain? This is going to be a new concept for a lot of people. What is an energetic orgasm in your mind or experience, at least?
So here's where I'll be just a little bit careful because I do think that when we start talking about energy,
Mm.
some people will clamp down and think of it as that's not for me, that's not academic, that's not.
Okay.
But I think that if we talked about energy, in just talking about vibration and sensation. And I think most people would agree that such a thing as energy exists, right? And it's not theoretical, it's an actual thing that drives the world, right? So I'm balancing here, like understanding that everything is energy, right? Like for me, like talking about God or the divine or the goddess or spirit or universe or something is just talking about all energy. Like all energy is working for me all the time, is my way of saying the universe wants me to have what I want to have, right?
Mm.
And so, talking about energetic orgasms um, is just talking about how to tap into the sensations that are happening in your body with a curiosity that allows the limits of the physical realm. But energy is in the physical realm. Um, but that allows that energy to expand. So when you focus on sensation, you'll feel energy in a place. And so if you can move that through breath, sound, movement, focus, pull it, and you can do this outside of sex too. Like if you need empirical evidence that energetics exist, do it outside of sex. It's hard to like start with a marathon thing, right? But an energy orgasm is exactly that. You feel this, you feel the component of pleasure, and you feel it as sensations in your body not so much as like, oh, I'm thinking about having all of this pleasure and what should I do with it? And it's an invitation for that energy to take you over. And you can learn how to do that.
Thank you. It's a really cool, amazing experience. And again, I don't want anyone out there to be really, like reaching for this and thinking like this is some sort of goal. I can just say for a while, I'd heard of energetic orgasms and definitely been curious. But I think one reason why I was/am able to do it is because I was never trying to learn how to do it ever. It happened to happen, the first time I was just relaxed and we were playing and I was, I'll be like on my back, very relaxed. The way he talks to me, he'll touch me a little, get me very like physically turned on. And, the way that he whispers in my ear. And it has been surprising to me to have like a full on orgasm without him even touching me that much, just because I get so in the moment. And yeah, it's amazing. So I do know that it's out there, but again, a lot of these different types of orgasms you will experience because you feel safe, because you are in the moment, because you are in touch with your body, comfortable with your body, comfortable with your partner. So I encourage maybe that to be the goal. Gina, before we wrap, can you please let us know why orgasm matters?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I love the idea that orgasm matters because a lot of the things that we're doing in the whole of our life, right? We're trying to connect to others. We're social activists. We're trying to be better partners. We're trying to release our attachment orders or disorders, or we're going to a lot of therapy. We're going to and all of these things together that we're trying to figure out in our life can be condensed in this little idea of orgasm, which is allow pleasure in your life, allow expansion in your life, and surrender to something that is greater than you, right? And so when you're in full orgasmic pleasure, you need to be able to receive and to give. And so allowing yourself to orgasm, allowing yourself to experience orgasm is a way to move in the world easier with play and pleasure, right? Not all that, all this stuff is heavy that's going on in the world, but like you can play, you can be light, this can be fun. There's nothing wrong with you. This is just for your pleasure. Like
Mhm.
this is just for you, right? And so is everything. And so it's a really good practice to have orgasms and to have a curiosity about things that then becomes part of us. So orgasm is so important because it helps all the things that we want become part of our cellular structure, right? This is for me. This life, this fun, this pleasure, this is for me. So
Yeah, it's our
that
birthright. We like to say that pleasure is our birthright, and it is.
yeah.
I will also say, I don't think we've emphasized this quite enough, but if you are listening and thinking that this all sounds really great and wonderful things that you would like to do with a partner, it definitely is. And that being said, self pleasure is where it begins for a lot of people because you're not you want to be able to express to someone what you like. And also, if you happen to not be in a sexual partnership right now, just start masturbating like as much as possible. Like, we need this right now. And there's different things that you can experience when you have a partner, but orgasm is accessible to everyone in and outside of relationships or
Yeah.
sexual partnerships, however we want to think of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely true.
Mm. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. We went a little longer than what I was thinking, but why not? I mean, if we could keep on recording, we could probably would have gone for 2 hours, which funnily enough, I think the first anal sex chronicles that Jesse and I did, we talked for 2 hours and I had to cut it down. I love talking about this stuff
Ah,
so much.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, I love talking about it with you. I love being interviewed by you and being on your podcast and throwing all of the pleasure tips around.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Amazing.
the world needs this right now. Women need this right now. Vulva owners need this right now. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for following Sex and the Solo Girl. I'm still new and I'm loving it. I always wanted to do provocative content, and it's definitely what we're doing. If you loved it, let me know. Either go to Instagram and say hi to Gina as well. And if you want to leave me a 5-star rating and review, that's very exciting as a new podcast to get. We'll see everyone next week for another sassy episode of Sex and the Solo Girl. Bye, Gina.
Janice.
Thank you for listening to Sex and the Solo Girl with Janice Formicella, the podcast for those who want to add more flavor to their relationships with themselves and others. If you liked today's episode, make sure to head over to Instagram and let her know. See you next week.